Marylin Oliver Bard. My father was Emmett Oliver, Chinook, enrolled Quinault. My mother was Georgia Abeda Oliver, Isleta Pueblo. I am Chinook, of course, and I am enrolled in the Quinault Indian Nation. I'm also known another way. People refer to me as, I'm Emmett Oliver's daughter, I'm Marvin Oliver's sister, and I'm Owen Oliver's aunt. So I kind of have to go by that now, because they say, aren't you Marvin's sister? Aren't you Owen Oliver's aunt? Yes, okay. Okay, so we're gonna have to shorten this up a little bit. Thank you, Heather, for going over all these slides. And but I know most people know the background a little of the polls, of course. So I'm not going to give all this history of how it all started, but there's some certain things that we want to show you an update. So we're going to take you from 1982, when the poles were first decided to be carved, and then go to 84, when the dedication of the poles into the park, and from 1984 to 2018, when the decision was to take the poles down for the renovation of the new park. And from 2023, we are now into 2025 and going into 26. So if you can do the math, we have been on this for a very long time. And so there's been a lot of ups and downs and a lot of patience, and we just honor the Historical Commission for being here tonight, because they were so helpful and listened to us, and that's what we really needed. And so we're taking you, I want to take you on this little journey, because I'm used to being in a canoe and going on a canoe journey. And so I think of this as that, okay, so we got on this canoe, we're with these poles, and now it's been over 2 and some years. Well, I can pole for maybe 5 to 8 hours in a day, but I wouldn't have gone on a journey for over 2.5 years, 3 years. And so, but it has been a journey. And you know, when you're on the water and you're on the canoe and things happen. It could be the tides. It could be something that interferes with, you know, like the currents, or there's a stop. Or I had an incident this summer where we went on the wrong property and we were nearly arrested. I was with the Duwamish, okay? And so things like that. Well, things have happened with the totem poles, okay? So that's just the story. That's the journey. I hope you enjoy, you know, seeing everything. Thank you, Heather, for all this support. But so I'm going to shorten it up a little bit, and you know that the totem poles at Victor Steinbrueck Park in Seattle have been the subject of significant debate and restoration efforts over the recent years. And that Marvin was commissioned by Victor for the poles, and he and James Bender, they worked on the poles and collaborated with Victor. And the poles became iconic features of the park, offering a view of the Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains. The farmer's pole and the untitled pole were installed at the market on March 11, 1984. Victor Steinbrueck, professor of architecture at the University of Washington, was credited with saving the Pike Place Market. He died in '85. The park was renamed in his honor. And here's a quote from Victor. "The poles are a tribute to the cultural contribution and heritage of our Native Americans, as well as having an urban design and civic amenities association to other Seattle totem poles. These poles are not legendary, as it is often intended with such work. The symbolism of these two poles may be thought of as related to the city of Seattle, strength and power, prosperity, acknowledgement, and honor of the farmers, women, and men. He saw that the poles suggested communication within our own communities." I just want to add one thing, is that a quote from Walt Crawley, from the historian of History Link. And he says, "So what does history serve? It helps us to be more than human. It is the essential narrative defining our place in time and in the stream of our culture. This includes the history of the market and the history of Seattle, the history of the poles, and the history going forward to the future, both of the market and the Seattle waterfront and the Steinbrueck Parks. Also from 1907, notes from Thomas Ravello's Seattle City Councilman at Pike Place Market. He said, "This is the dedication. This market is yours. I dedicate it to you, and may it prove to benefit to you and your children. It is for you to defend and to protect and uphold. It is for you to see that those who occupy it treat you fairly. This is one of the greatest days in the history of Seattle. But it is only the beginning, for soon this city will have one of the greatest markets in the world." Okay, so now we are going to start our slideshow. And okay. So this is the Belvedere, and this was something that Victor was so set on, is that these poles were going to look out into the horizon and the view, meaning Belvedere, beautiful view. And the purpose is to offer a pleasing vantage point for viewing the scenery. And here is the untitled pole looking out on the water on Puget Sound. And next. Now this is Marvin. I'm going to go to 1984, and then we're going to step back so you can see that that was the day that Marvin, the dedication, and he was talking to the reporters, and he took, if someone wants to look up a YouTube of Marvin speaking at a previous recorded presentation at the market, do so, because he will give you all the history of totem poles and how it came about. But he talked about the collaboration between James Bender himself and who continued the carving. He was proud that he had included the woman to the farmer's pole and the salish spindle whorl that was brandished by the raven on the untitled pole. And to bring, like he said, bring the Puget Sound and Coast Salish to the untitled pole. So now we're going to go back. We're going to go back to 1982, and this is the time where the logs are being selected in the forest. And this is on Bainbridge Island. So the logs were taken to Marvin's property on Bainbridge Island. Well, they were going to be started to rough up. And as we have Mike over here, has been introduced, he was there helping Marvin and had lots of notes about the roughing of the logs to get them prepared for the carving. And you can see, and this one at the far over to the right, it looks like that one is could be the farmer's pole or the untitled. We're not sure of at that point. The next slide shows, though, that the first one here looks like that is the untitled pole, and the farmer's pole on the other side. Again, this is on the property. Here we see the next one. We see the untitled pole starting to become a little bit more, to real of the design. And of course, with the raven's head is at the top. And there's always been some mystery about Marvin and Raven. So he had a raven at the top and a raven at the base. And the next one, and so here is James Bender and Mike over here, and he helped James Bender and Marvin rough out the logs on Bainbridge Island. He remembers being there and interacting with Marvin and James, and he helped to relay some of this story of the first poles that were carved in Seattle in the Northwest area. So thank you, Mike, for being here. We have a lot of discussion when I'm speaking on the ferry going to work, and I'm on there too, and I have to give him an update. Even if I'm walking up the ramp, I go, Mike, you want to know what's going on right now? We'll send you in. So anyway, he's quite into this. So thank you so much for being here. The next one here is James Bender working on the raven, and this is the untitled pole. You see the roughing out of the farmer's pole on the other side. Okay, so this is my next one. Okay, this is the spindle pole. This is what Marvin was talking about, that this was the Coast Salish part of his purpose of the untitled pole, so that everyone would be acknowledged. And from the first part, you can see, of course, this is a Haida-influenced northern pole design, as you see with the untitled pole. And so that's why he wanted to have the spindle wool, which is, it's the tool for spinning the yarn, either of the dog or the mountain goats for weaving to make blankets and clothing. So that he was very proud of that. The next one shows, here's a roughing out and the starting of the curve of the ovoid of the eye, and this one is on the raven. You can see his beak going down. And the other one, you get a better view of this, and you can see now that he's there started to paint, and he has that beak. In his beak, it's like he's carrying it away. He's carrying something in his mouth, not the sun, but the spindle wool. Here's another better look at it, and you can see here of the light color and the painting of the red and the black, very traditional. Of the, again, you'll see the bear. You'll see the orca that heads down. There's the blowhole, but the dorsal fin hasn't been put on yet. And the next one shows the dorsal fin. The beautiful colors. You can see the ovoids, the crescents, the design of the form line that he learned from Bill Home. He was his educator. That's where he learned from Bill Home. So did James Bender. James Bender was to the University of Washington, and he also learned form line there. So this was a collaboration. When they say native and non-native carvers and working together, it's done all the time. So there shouldn't be any question about it. The next one is, there is Victor Steinbrueck standing next to the dorsal fin. And this one shows, it's pretty black on the paint. Okay, and so in the logbook, there's some differentiation about what color it was. And it faded. But there are some of the lines there, the U-shapes, the ovoid, and there's Victor. And here's some more roughing out of one of the logs. This could have been a little bit before. It doesn't look like it is the farmer's board because it looks like there's an underside to it. Okay, the next one, but this is on Bainbridge again, Marvin's property.
That's Mike.
Mike, I think this is Mike. Mike, is that you? Oh, okay, Mike, good job. He really worked hard. Okay, now here is Victor admiring his farmer's pole. You can just tell. He wanted this. He wanted to have a pole that was dedicated to the farmers of the market. Now, the difference is the figures at the top of this pole are the highest honored. That's where they belong. And then there's nothing down the base. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think, well, that's not a totem pole. Well, where's all the figures? It's not supposed to be that way. But in Alaska, if you see some northern, it's a memorial pole, actually, because then that's dedicated to either the person or the thing or who's in honor. So there's no crescent on the bottom because there's no one else to dedicate it to. So that was what Victor wanted all along, is that he wanted the farmers, the man and the woman honored, and that's why he's looking that way down. He's pleased. Okay, here is the farmer, the man, and look at his outfit. Oh my gosh, he's got blue overalls and a red shirt, his mustache, his hair, his hat. He is ready to go up and be on display. He is so proud. And you're going to see what later on in the slides what's happening. Okay, that is amazing. Okay, so here is the pole, the untitled pole, leaving. You can see a little bit of the orca going down, and then there's the bear, the raven at the top, the other raven. But this is now leaving Marvin's home. And this is on Bainbridge Island, and it's ready to go to the market. And this one shows them actually putting it on the truck. Right there, that's right in front of his house. You can see what a mess that was. But that's the farmer's pole. And in here you can see how it was designed down, and then it goes over, and then that's how it was installed. Only the farmers at the top. Okay, and the next one. Okay, so this is the day that the poles arrive at the market. And they're down on the street below, just like they were taken away. They were on the same path. And now they're going to be taken up to the park, Market Park. And this one shows the crane being moved. The first pole, you can even see what year that is, 1984, the cars. And so this one's being installed with the crane, watching the crane move those poles. And then the next one, here goes the farmer's pole. Now that's a good, untitled, this is the untitled pole. So that's being erected and it's going to be installed. And then this is the day of the dedication with Mayor Charles Royer, who said that he had a very attentive audience and he was delighted, and it was covered by TV, radio, and a lot of dignitaries. And but it also said, he said, the goal was to honor the people who have come before. Elisa Steinbrueck said, on land formerly occupied by Coast Salish people. So that is the great day. And the next one we show here is that James Bender first, and then we see Victor Steinbrueck and Marvin talking to other reporters. They're talking about the process of when the poles were commissioned and carved, and now they're put up into the park. And here we have a lovely duo. We have Peter and Matthew Steinbrueck there at the ceremony. Yay! And if you tune into the Marvin Oliver YouTube of the presentation on the totem poles, you will see several pictures of them. I'm not even sure if he's talking to them, but he doesn't say their names. Anyway, that's Peter and Matthew Steinbrueck. David's mine. Hey. Okay, so here is the untitled pole up, and this is years past. And we're talking 1984 and forward to 2018. And there is a Ferris wheel there. So we're not sure when, but as you can see, the coloring may have changed a little bit with the weather. And you can see, West Seattle and, over this. So we're not sure, but it's there now. It's in the park. And the notes from Victor Steinbrueck are the untitled pole, while the raven at the top writes light and hope to Seattle and the market and all of us. There are several small figures intertwined with the main elements. The bear holds a hawk, which may signify vigilance and watchfulness, the bear's strength. Good luck and abundance is from the killer whale. The messenger is the little human and with feathers between the whale tail fins, which suggests communication within our own communities or between people and nature. The Salish woman spinning whirl held by raven may symbolize the contribution of local Native Americans through the combination of work and art and recognizing the work of women in our society. That was a nice tribute. So here it is. Now you can see over to the left over here. That looks like a maybe after 84, and then gradually as they weather, you can see the figures that are starting to deteriorate a little bit, and the dorsal fin. Next one. Okay, so here we come again to the farmer's pole. And I guess maybe it's in the log, but at first there was just going to be the man farmer at the top. And Marvin suggested the woman to be a
Marjorie suggested that.
Who did?
Marjorie.
Victor's wife, Marjorie.
Okay, see, that's why I wanted you have the notes in case there's something that needs to be added. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So here again, you can see the pole going down with the figures, with the two farmers at the top with their little badges. And they're wearing the red, the white top, the woman, and the male with the colors, the blue and the red with the hat.
And the badge says
And the badge says
1984.
1984, so on their badges. Now, their badges will be shined up and they'll be put back on, it's very soon. They're already, we'll let you know, it's okay. They are on there right now.
So tell them what's funny about this rendering. This is during the planning of the renovation.
Yes. This is a rendering of the planning of the new park. And Heather had told me that she talked to some native people that said, you know, we want to have the untitled pole closer to where we are, and then can they move the farmer's pole further down to the other side? Now, I don't know what that was about, but.
This is what I heard, but they found that the way they're attached is not the same.
Oh,
So they
absolutely.
did not swap it.
No, we know how they were attached. We were there for nearly 8 hours watching them come down. So we know how they were attached, removed and attached. Because there was a lot of sidewalk superintendents of the Steinbrueck family that were there, talking over, well, what do you think they're gonna do? Do you think they're just gonna kind of move it back and forth and break it loose, and then, well, what do you think? You think they'll lift it up? No, that'll crack it. Can't do that. Well, what about the other? Well, the other one's coming out easy, but this one they're not, and they're pushing. Well, I don't think that's what they're really going to do, and actually, that's what they did. They pushed it, and that's when you could see all the rock come out. Oh, I mean, there was a lot. And so if you remember, so here is the day, Jane Gerard, he was taking all the photos, and I got to be in it and watch the poles be taken down and then moved over and down to the street below. That was absolutely amazing to see that. And here they are, you can tell, very deteriorated, but they're heading now. Now we have to go back a little bit to the commission that, and with the parks, is that the poles can now be moved. They're not going to be taken down. They're not going to be replaced. And so they're going to Fort Lawton now. We don't know what's going to happen once they get to Fort Lawton, but they're going to Fort Lawton because they're going to renovate the park. We'll see what happens. So, but it's always been that when poles start to deteriorate, they go to ground. And so I had told them, don't let them touch the ground or they will have to go to ground. And that hasn't been decided from the commission. Okay, these poles are meant to be restored and reinstalled in the park. So it's either if the carvers are alive and they can make that decision on what to do, or the family members. So it was the Steinbruecks, I agreed to, plus the commission, yes, these poles will be restored and reinstalled. So now they're off to Fort Lawton, and this is the day that...
well, this is the radar.
Yeah, okay, so we are at the park, and you can see down below that that is a different tent covering. So it was about the time that they were cleaning, and every time we went out to Fort Lawton and we saw the poles, the raven would come around and the eagles would come, and we said, you know, they're watching us. They're watching to see what's happening. They're watching the poles. They're watching over them that they're safe. And you know what? Probably Marvin has something to do with this because, you know, he was a raven guy. But then we get to see.
This is when we found them.
This is when we found them. We went all over. It was a wild goose chase. We had to go to Daybreak Star and we had to ask, and they kept saying, well, I don't know, they're down some other place. They're not here. And we eventually found them at the.
2.5 hours later.
Huh?
2.5 hours.
2 hours and a half hours later. Yeah, there they were at the Seattle maintenance facility against the fence. They were on the boards, and we were there, and the eagles were waiting for us, and raven. Okay, so here they are on the ground. They're put against the fence. Of course, it's locked I think.
By 2 o'clock.
By 2 o'clock. By 2 o'clock, you had to be out, which was better than the other facility. So here you see them on the ground, on the boards. And this now, when they were taken down and left, it was April
2023.
April 23, April. It was in April.
It was the same day.
Okay, so that was the same day. So now they're over at Fort Lawton. It's April, then we're gonna go into May, June, July, summer's gonna come. And you can see the faces now of some of the deterioration, some of the cracks in the figures here.
This is on October 1st.
And this is around October 1st. You can see the leaves on the ground. And again, inside, if you looked really carefully, you could see where the rot was. You could see how wet they were. Well, we're going into fall. Now we're going to get into winter, and we don't know what's going to happen with the poles. Are they going to dry out? And so we kept waiting and waiting.
End of October.
End of October. Okay, now there's a good look at the orca and the little blowhole, the little figure there coming down, like a blackfish, but he does really look like a blackfish. But we're into the fall, winter. We have a biological growth coming out of the right now because of the wetness. And they're not being, so we told them, it's fall, it's getting into winter, you can see the leaves. Put a cover, a tarp over these poles. I mean, look at the rot down here. That can't dry. So they improved it a little bit by covering it up. They covered up the dorsal fin. And then this is when the new cover was made, and this is where they're starting to be clean.
This is 19 months later.
19 months later, they're gonna be clean. And now they take a look at them. There's a lot of cleaning to do because they've been left out in the elements. And someone said, well, they've been out in the elements anyway, at the park, but not on their sides like this, not taken down.
And they were moved and these cracks opened up.
And when they were moved, then these cracks opened up. Those cracks were not there. They were not there at all, so you can see that. Now here is,
September 2024.
I have, okay, September 2024, okay, and this was published November 12th, 2024. Oh, and here is Greg Colfax. Now, I had first commissioned him and gave him a retainer, but that wasn't going to be approved yet. But he still came to give his advice about the poles.
In
And
June 2023.
in 2023, yes, he was, in 2023. Yeah, that's when I gave him the retainer. Here it is, a little time later getting cleaned but he's going to do the work. He's macaw. He is a master pole carver. And here he is being interviewed by Eric Zigliano. There was an article in the Cascade PBS Indigenous Affairs the article was called Continuous Pike Place Market, Poles to be Restored and Returned. And unfortunately, Eric was killed in an accident about a year after that, I think.
No, a couple months later, he passed away in a diving accident.
Yeah, it was some kind of scuba diving, yeah, accident. Yeah, terrible. But there is, you can look it up because there is the article. There is the article, you want to read it. And that gives a lot of background, a little more history of things that I haven't even touched about some of the stops that happened along the way. Okay, and then we're going to move to the next one. We're going to move quickly. So they are, now you can see them being moved, see the rot. Now they are going to be moved inside. Okay, this is when for sure that we know that Greg is going to be the carver, and they go up on this scaffolding that's inside this new facility.
Federal warehouse nearby.
Yeah, okay. It is dark, it is cold, there are no lights, and there is no heat, and there is no key. Okay, so they can keep us out as long as they want, and we don't know how they're going to dry in here. Do we get blow dryers or what? So, so here they are, and now this is when, especially it was either David or Lisa said, bring all your flashlights, and we need as much light as we can, okay, because there's no lights in there. So this is well lit right here, and this is the day, we're getting ready, they turned them over. So this is the day that we're going to have, they're going to leave. They're going to leave the following day.
Yeah, May 29th.
May 29th, I remember that date. Okay, May 29th. Now, so it is customary and it's traditional that when the poles before they leave for their safety, and I asked the parks and they agreed, but would you give me permission to have a prayer ceremony over the poles for their safety? So I did have someone come, Nahan came, a song came to him in that morning, and he came in the rattle song, and he said it had to be the women, and we had smudge, and we had cedar, and I had the feather, and we were to walk around the poles 4 times. And so this was for our protection on the way to Nia Bay. There's another ceremony that Greg did that before the carver starts the actual work, they put the sprinkling of the eagle down over the poles before they restore them, so everything is done in a very sacred and appropriate way.
Marylin, was the ceremony recorded by any chance?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it
I
was.
recorded it.
We just thought because it was a prayer song that we thought maybe we should not have it included because we didn't have permission.
Right.
Okay, but it was beautiful, and the workers outside, they said take as long as you need, and when you're ready, we will take them out. They were on their rollers. Here is an incredible photo of the woman. Who took this? Lisa. Oh, Lisa, photographer. Look at this. Okay, see the broken nose and the mouth, and see that she looks pretty tired. Okay, she looks like she needs her nose fixed, but you'll see that a little later. Okay. Now, so they have them on these rollers, and they're coming out of this facility. Again, you can see that it's just dark in there, and so they're going to be now moved to the truck. And this is the forklift that's moving them very carefully with the ropes, not to hit the side of that wall there, of that building. And here they go on to the truck. We're again at Fort Lawton. And the next day, we are going to be following them. And I am with David Steinbrueck. I have to be ready at 4 a.m. in the morning to go follow. We have to go down to, I think, Lacey, somewhere down there in Tacoma, and follow the truck to make sure it's safe all the way to Nia Bay. We are on our way to Nia Bay. And there is, and I have my little banner there, and I got that at Canoe Journey in 2010, and it's about paddle to Nia Bay.
Nice.
See, so if we were in a canoe, we're on our way to Nia Bay, 2010. Okay, so we're ready to go. You can still see the ends of them, but then once they got there to the facility, they covered them in tarp and absolutely had them tied down beautifully. They weren't going to move anywhere. Here we are moving. I'm with David now in his truck. We're following the truck, and we are going over Highway 212. It's very narrow, it's very windy, and I have counted now by when we started 8 to 9 logging trucks coming towards us. And we got to that area where it was only one lane. So, and there was no like stoplight. You had to wait to see if someone was coming so you could get around, and you're in a truck. Anyway, it was scary. And here we are coming into Nia Bay. Heather is over here with her camera, watching us finally arrive. We are arriving at Nia Bay. They're all wrapped up. There's the dorsal fin, hasn't fallen over in the wind or the element. And apparently she says I'm waving. We have made it. Okay, and then we just have a couple more. And okay, the next one is they arrive. Okay, now they're being taken off the forklift at the truck that is at, and that's Greg Colfax's home. They're on these
Foam rollers.
Foam rollers, and so they're going to be safe there. And now he has both of them down. You can see that the one in the front is the farmer's pole, and it can be on its base because he's going to be working on it first. And then, lo and behold, Greg says, well, that dorsal fin has to come off. And so he gets his saw out, David over there goes, no, I can't watch this. I can't watch it. I go, well, how are they going to turn it around? They can't, the dorsal fin's in the way. So anyway, they sawed it off, and so we took a picture, and then we tried to decide who gets the dorsal fin. I think David gets the dorsal fin. Anyway, okay. And then here Greg is explaining what he's going to do, and this is the untitled pole. And a couple of days, Greg was there, and a buddy came by from the reservation. He said, oh, I just love to pull nails and boards out of it. And he was and they got it done in like 3 or 4 hours. So all the rot now, all the inside is all cleared out. You can see that the board, it's ready to have. The next step is the structural engineer and the fabricator. That's their job, to come in and do that before it can be turned over. So here we are again, asking all the questions that were wanted, like what's going to go on, what's the next step. We've got myself, and then there's Peter, David, Matthew, and Jean over here, who's taking pictures or just visiting with us. And you can see where they're attached on the back of this one. Okay, we're almost done. Here's one of Heather taking this from up above.
Oh, nice.
And Greg is working on the farmer's pole.
Yay, Greg.
Yay, Heather.
Hey, Heather. Heather did a fabulous job. She knew all the history, everything we had to get ready for, all the commission meetings, all the emails, all the correspondence with Parks and Recreation. Okay, now this is when I went, after I finished Laura L. Law Canoe Journey, I went to see what was happening, and Greg explained that he fixed the nose, and he had to still fix the eye. And I said, well, the eye looks like, no, it's not all the way fixed yet. And then he had, there were these, the cracks he had to fill with these shingle that very thin, put them in with the epoxy. And then in order to do that, you could see all the lines, so we had to paint over and then do another painting. So that was the procedure to this. So. And here we are. Oh, there she is. Look at her. She's got her little bag. Look at her face, her lips. She's got her nose is fixed. Her eye is perfect. She's all dressed up. Her hair. Oh my gosh. It was fabulous. And then there is the man, the farmer. And he has his blue and red clothes, his mustaches, his hat, and everything, his hair, and you can see part of the pole. And then this is another rendering of, these are where the plinths are in with the new.
This is an actual photo that I think Jean took.
Yep.
Oh, did you really?
Yep.
Okay, so that's where they're going to be returned, in the same spot, because that's their location.
You can see one of the plinths on the left-hand side.
And then Heather took this one in the evening. So you can see here, now the park has opened. Okay, for a while at the commission meetings, I would start to leave, and they weren't finished yet, and I can't remember who I turned to, and I said, the park doesn't open until those poles are restored. I go, I'll see you later. Okay, and they were approved to be restored and reinstalled. Is that in writing? Okay, open the park. So there they are at the park. But that took a while. We won't get into that story. Okay, so here we are. This is our group here. Heather, our leader. We got David and Lisa, myself. This is when the pole's in the air. This is our last photo. And well, we have one more. This is a saying.
What did you say? Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. That's what Lisa said her dad always said. So that was our logo. Okay, so that is the journey of the pole. Thank you.